Good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, and honored guests. Thank you for joining us here today for this year's Student Voice Conference. A survey performed by Indiana University on 81,000 high school students revealed that 73% of students do not enjoy school. That is a scary number and should be a scary number to you. But why should so much of our population be spending over a decade of their lives doing something that they don't enjoy at all? It just doesn't make sense. My name is Waseem Rabba, and I want to share with you the intuitive way that I turned school from being an experience that I didn't enjoy into one that I really enjoy. My older brother would always tell me to have fun in school by treating it like a game. And so I come from a fairly high-level sports background. I've played sports all my life. And so looking at classes as practice, time to hone my skills for the game, the test, was very intuitive to me. And it made a lot of sense when I framed it that way. Now, over the past year, I've been reading a lot of positive psychology, and I've been taking a class on psychology. And one name kept coming up for me, Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi. Try saying that 10 times fast. He's a psychologist that pioneered the concept of flow, which is basically a highly focused mental state that leads to enjoyable experiences. So in his book, Flow, he breaks down the main principles that make an experience a flow experience. I want to briefly summarize them, as it is a great read, and I definitely recommend picking up a copy no matter who you are. So the key elements of a flow experience are as follows. 1, there's a clear goal, something that you want to be doing with a task. 2, there's a clear and immediate feedback mechanism that gives you a sense of progress towards that goal. 3, there's a skill/challenge balance. Your skills match the challenges presented by the activity. 4, concentration. You are concentrated by the activity at hand. Control. You feel like you're in control of what you're doing in order to achieve that goal. And there are a few other things that make a flow experience a flow experience. But for that, you're going to have to read the book. But I believe that these are the 5 most important takeaways from the book that would apply to make school a flow experience for every student. So with these principles in mind, it's pretty obvious to see why sports are enjoyable, because it's pretty much by definition a flow experience. The goal, winning, is obvious. The sense of feedback, the feedback mechanism, the score, again, fairly obvious. Skill/challenge balance. Games are only really fun if your opponent is at similar skill level to you. In other words, if you're a high school team, you're not going to be playing against professional teams because that wouldn't be any fun. And you're not going to be playing a team of toddlers because that'd be too easy, right? So your skills match the challenges. You are, of course, concentrated on the task at hand. When you're on a soccer field, you're not on your phone texting your friends or whatever. And finally, you are fully in control of what you do. You're in control of whether you chase after the ball or whether you kick it and score. It's all on you. So it's also pretty obvious to see why school does not fit the definition of a flow experience. Well, there's a clear goal, kind of, in that you want to get good grades. But when you think about the sense of progress towards that, the feedback mechanism is almost always delayed. You hand in a test and you have pretty much no idea about what your grade's going to be. It takes days or weeks. Same thing with homework. Furthermore, the skills don't always match the challenges. Sometimes things are way too hard and sometimes things are way too easy. So it can be overwhelming at times and it can be boring at other times. You're not always concentrated either. I mean, pretty much everyone's on their phone when they're in school doing work. It's pretty much the norm. You also don't really feel like you're in control. So it's pretty obvious that school isn't a flow experience for most people. And I think that really shows why 73% of high school students do not enjoy school. But here's the promising thing. As a student, you can make school a flow experience. First and foremost, it is important that you set goals outside of grades that you can evaluate yourself on. And that is the key idea. I'm going to give you an example. For my English class, one of my goals was a set of few, but one of them was to get better at writing arguable theses. So when I write a thesis, I want it to be something that is actually arguable. And this is not something that my teacher is going to tell me. That's something that I can figure out on my own when looking at my writing. I can say, is this arguable? And can see whether I'm progressing or not. It's immediate because I'm the one evaluating it. And just a side note, I apply this to my daily life too. I write down goals for every single day, and I evaluate myself on whether I have achieved them. And I'm not nice to myself about it. I truly want to be honest because that's the only way that I'll actually see progress. Because I know I know if I'm faking it. So set goals for everything that you're doing in school. They can be big macro goals that span an entire year or semester, and they can be small micro goals. In this class, I want to get better at X. The most important thing is that for your goal, your progress can be evaluated immediately. So it cannot rely on things like grades because that's usually not something you can get immediately. Usually not something you can get immediately while you actually are in the task. So focus. Focus is a hard one in school because you obviously need friends and you need social activities, right? I'm a huge advocate for balance. I don't think that anyone should be working all the time because that is super unrealistic and that is not a healthy life to be living. The way that I deal with this is I put myself into a school mode where the only thing that I'm thinking about is the task in front of me. You know, what project I'm working on, what class I'm in, the note I'm taking, and tune out everything else. So I turn off my phone. I don't really talk to people while I'm doing that. I'm just in school. Then when I'm not in school mode, I don't think about school at all. And I let myself be present with my friends. And when you apply this as a strategy, you really find that you get more out of both experiences, as opposed to kind of taking this average and having overall mediocre experiences. When you're with your friends, you're stressed about school, and when you're in school, you're thinking about your friends. Separating the two, I found for me, has been tremendously healthy and beneficial for my relationships and for school. So finally, I think that the hardest thing to implement into schools to make them a flow experience is control. Because it's very hard to feel control when you're doing the work that a teacher assigns you to do. But setting good goals will help you with this. So for example, if a goal is to get better at writing arguable theses, and my teacher assigned me a video project, what you should be thinking about for that video project is not how do I get an A on the project. It's how do I make a video that has an arguable thesis in it. I'm changing the activity to fit my goals. And fun fact, when you have good goals like this, you probably will be getting better grades as well because you're producing passionate and inspired work as opposed to stuff that is kind of just whipped out in half an hour or whatever because, it wasn't really fun. If you're having fun with it, your teacher will obviously see that, and it will benefit you tremendously. So I challenge students to reject grades as a feedback mechanism and to listen to your own internal heuristic about whether or not you're improving or succeeding and achieving your goals. Because you have so much more enjoyment. You have so much more enjoyable experience when you do this. And to be honest, it will help you with your grades as well. So hopefully, if you're a student, you will think about using methods or maybe some other methods to make school into a flow experience. Because trust me, you do not want to spend a decade of your life or more, a lot more in some people's cases, sometimes 2 decades, doing something that is just not enjoyable. You want to make this an enjoyable experience. So teachers, here's really the most important point for you. If you can turn teaching into a flow experience by applying the concept of flow to your work, then your students are actually much more likely to experience a flow as well, to enjoy school. It's due to a phenomenon known as emotional contagion, and it's actually been documented in formal psychology studies. So I highly recommend that you figure this out for yourself. And on that point, to anyone, you can really implement flow in any part of your life. I try and turn my life into a flow experience by setting big goals and little goals for every single day. And to be honest, when I started doing that, I started enjoying life a lot more. And so if you're interested in reading more on the topic, Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi, some really, really interesting literature. Just to clear things up, of course I know I'm not 100% perfect, but the key is that I always try to improve on myself. As mentioned earlier, being an advocate to balance is very important. Both school and your social life should have equal balance. I'm guilty of overworking myself and spending hours upon hours while leaving little to no time to socialize. But after reading the book, it made me come to the realization that there was a maximum to how much work you should be doing. And doing more than that maximum will actually hurt you more than it will help you. And so I hope with these principles in mind, all students can get out of bed in the morning after pressing their snooze button for the first time rather than the 17th time. Thank you very much, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you.